to talk about?
Okay, it's just a little bit hard to read. I'm sort of expanding it as big as I can. So what have you got here? Key, bedroom, staked hex, staked days, and then B shares means headroom. Yeah, okay. So you're basically looking at how much hedron is available and how much hex started it and how much has been earned, and that is you're using that as the basis of the price. Is that correct?
Yes. In this scenario, um, we're looking at if we created this hex stake today,
Oh,
like
okay.
right now, right?
Right.
That will give its value because it's essentially just the value of the hex that is in the stake currently.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that'll give you the value of the hex right there. And then here's that theoretical value that you had mentioned something about theoretical, like down the road sort of evaluation. And this is as close as I could get to getting like a hard number for that, which is essentially just what's it cost today to get a B share, right?
Yep.
And you just basically take the B shares that you created times the price per B share, and that gives you this theoretical stake value. Is that kind of what you're envisioning?
Well, the thing is with that, because when people stake, they get more B shares, so the cost is actually a third. So that's why that 10,000 is like the 3,000 is about a third of the 10,000. Hey.
Yeah, because you're getting the longer pays better bonus. So essentially, like the only way I could think of to theoretically say, okay, well, yeah, this is you're getting the longer pays better, which is why the theoretical stake value is so much higher because you're getting all those extra B shares for making it a max link stake, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of the only way I could kind of evaluate it. Like, hey, this is just a theoretical value of the stake. If you're just looking at what B shares cost and how many B shares you have in this stake. I find this to be just for fun kind of a thing. I don't think there's any real actionable intel you get from it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that in just for
What about the replacement? Like, what about the replacement value? Like, some of these stakes have been going for 3 months already. So,
yeah.
So we could look at what we would cost to get the same amount of B shares today, and then add in or the hex that's already been earned, perhaps.
Well, the way I was calculating that in is I would have to change. We'd have to change up these numbers, of course. Like the 100,000 hex staked 3 months ago would be at a different T share rate, right? Which would
Yeah.
give you more B shares than what you would get today. But let's ignore that for just a second. And let's say we plug this in. Like we found a stake on the market, on the auction that we were trying to evaluate, right? And just for argument's sake, let's say that these numbers are correct, that it
Okay.
was 100,000 hex that was staked and then you got 12,000 B shares for it. And say this is day one, they made that stake and sold it immediately on the same day, right? Let's assume that.
Yeah.
So then now we're 90 days later. So now we can add in 90 days to our served days in stake.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now what that has done is it's added the yield that it occurred in hex over those
Yep.
90 days.
Yep.
And then that it adds that hex to the 100,000 and then gives you a new value of the hex here. What it
Yep.
also does is it automatically generates this chart on the right, which would allow you to easily dictate how much hedron can be minted from there. So let's say this was from 90 days ago, and 90 days ago there was no more amplifier. So that means you would simply just paste in this million hedron over here to the mintable side. So you can just copy, paste this over here. Oh, I'm going to run into all kinds of problems doing this stuff on here. 082 700. Okay, so now we know that there's a million mintable hedron on there on that stake. So then this will take the million hedron times the current hedron price, and there's the value of the hedron built into there, which is automatically added. You'll see it's this plus this equals this guy. So that's accounted for here. And then the next step is it shows you based on. Oh, go ahead.
It's a bit less actually. I'm not sure what's going on there, but 3414 plus 450 is 319 something, isn't it? Oh no, sorry, you're right. Yep, 400. Sorry. Yep, that's correct.
You're good. And so then the next step would say, okay, so if we took the value of that stake and we divided it by the hedron price, that would tell you how much that is an equivalent to hedron, so that you would know, hey, this is my ceiling. This is the most I would bid for this HSI. And you'll notice up here, the total advanceable hedron that gets calculated, that's going to tell you, what the starting bid is. So starting bid is 66 million, and the total value of it is 823 million.
Yep. That all looks good. I mean, that advanceable hedron, it's kind of like it's something that's good to know, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in the price.
Yeah, the advanceable is not. What is the mintable.
Yeah, just what you can up until today. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if there is
launch bonuses, are the launch bonuses included in?
So let's say that there was a launch bonus. Let's say if you look here on the amplifier, let's say it was a 5x. So then you would just substitute this 6.4 billion.
Yeah.
No, 6.4 million, sorry. 6.4 million, and you'd throw that into the mintable. So now you're at 6,496,200. And now the value of the hedron in there jumped from like $5 to $27. And then that was also added to the total value of that stake as well.
Yep. Okay. And that looks pretty good. And I guess there's also we could have a separate price, which is what if that person just decided to cash in Icosa and put it back in the contract.
Right. So then this would get you back down at this bottom section here. And this takes the current hex T-share rate. So basically it's just a matter of so B22. Yeah, you know the formula. So it creates that formula there, so it tells you how much mintable Icosa you get if you recycled it back into the contract.
That's actually pretty close to the actual value, isn't it?
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close. I haven't ironed out. There's a bug somewhere where it's like $1 off, like somewhere around there. But I can figure that out at some point. It's negligible, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So I guess what we could say is that like that range between the mintable Icosa and the actual value of the stake, that's probably like a fair value range.
Yeah.
And anything below that, you're getting a nice discount, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't pay for more. Don't pay over it, because with that same money, you could just go buy hex.
Exactly.
Cool. That's fantastic.
And then
that's fantastic. Yeah, that looks really good.
And then this last little part will just it's something that I think I've talked about before several times in the past about talking about how that Icosa price may deviate from the ceiling for a little while during these auctions because of the sell pressure of people wanting to take profits for winning HSIs at a discount. And so this will allow you to plug in whatever the current price of Icosa is. So if this drops down to like 90 cents, then that tells you that you've got a negative arbitration difference. So like the ceiling should be here, but the Icosa price is actually here. So if you were to go and sell this said HSI, or if you went through this whole process and then sold this Icosa, like that's basically the hit you're taking.
Mm.
So then you either decide I'm willing to take the hit on this, or I'll just hold on to this HSI until Icosa finds its ceiling price again. Or the third option would be to go ahead and post this HSI on a third party market to see if you can sell it for, say, an average price of, a dollar per Icosa. So that, you're taking less of a hit. So then you'd only be taking like a $350 hit as opposed to the 787.
Yep, cool. That looks great.
And then, this is just reiterating basically what we were just talking about, except for the numbers are going to look quite different. So This is the proof of work chain. And then we've done all the same work, except for you'll notice hex price is considerably lower. You'll notice the Icosa price considerably lower, Hedron price lower. Oh, wait a minute. Do I need to adjust that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to adjust the Hedron price. So I need to lower that too. Good thing we're going over this.
Even less fractions of a cent.
People would be selling like crazy if they could sell it for this much on proof of work. But yeah, I'll adjust that. And then you'll notice that the T-share rate is also different. What was the difference there? So that's 24 to 424, 424. And then, yeah, right now we're at 24,933. So the interesting part is these other chains have like played these games of going back and forth. Like when I was streaming the last time, it's just like a week or so ago, the proof of work chain had a higher T-share rate than the proof of stake. But then what happened is that Whale closed out its stake on the regular Ethereum network and shot up the T-share rate, but did not do the same on the proof of work network. So that it's still pending on the proof of work network. So the T-share rate did not jump up. So essentially there's like this weird little opportunity that if you've got any tokens on the proof of work network and you wanted to stake Hex or stake Icosa or Hedron, there's actually an advantage to jump in and do it now before that Whale realizes or decides to go ahead and end their stake over there, because there's a difference of like 500 shares between the two networks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. The only thing is you're dealing with such small numbers that it's kind of like not so much money.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, right? But but it's there. It's there nonetheless.
Yep.
So that's basically the same thing. And then the last one is the third network. So you'll see on the third network, it's even lower on the T-share rate. So, as we see all the activity on the proof of stake network, it's the T-share rate is blowing by the other two networks, or have blown by the other two networks, and probably will continue to do so.
What's the T-share rate on the ETF?
It's that one. That's the one I got pulled up right now. It's the 24,383.
Uh-huh. So it's going, yeah, it's interesting, hey? It's going higher than the others.
No, this is the lowest. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh shit! How much is the hex T-share rate on ETH?
Okay, so here's the lowest on Fair at 24,000, or just remember 383. It's 383 on Fair. It is 424 on POW. And it is 933 on regular ETH, or proof of stake.
So is that shorter stakes seem to be putting up the share rate.
No, I think it's literally just bigger hex stakes are ending their hex stakes, because they're due. They've matured. Ending them on proof of stake for sure. And then a few of them went ahead and ended them on proof of work as well, but then have not on the Fair network. So it's like this order of magnitude of trust levels, I feel like, is what we're seeing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Or just laziness.
Yeah,
it's like, especially if you're one of those big stakers and you're dealing in thousands of dollars, it's kind of like, why would you bother messing around with, $10, $20 here or there kind of thing, like on these other chains?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Anything else you want to add or talk about on that section, on the value calculators?
I guess just to note that future mintable hedron is an incentive to buy, but should not necessarily be reflected in the price, or it's a subjective kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where the launch bonus tokens really will come into play.
Yeah, because I think the variable that is hard to calculate is what will the value of a Hedron token be worth at the maturity of the hex stake. That's like the difficult part. Like, you would be able to look over here and say, like, on this one, we were saying that it had the 5x multiplier, right? So you could quickly just throw in, like, if that's a Quattro Cinco stake, you could quickly say, let's flash forward in time and say the prices are all the exact same, but now we've matured, right? So now you've got all that extra hex, the value of the stake jumped way up. On the 5x multiplier, that now you're talking at 400 million Hedron that you can mint at its maturity, if nothing has been minted in the meantime, right? So it's like you can play with it a little bit to kind of see, if it's going to be worth anything. Because, okay, so if you take that and you throw in, so we're at $27 now. And then it jumps. Oh, yeah. That's a decent amount. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if it's was that just a 5x, was it?
That was just a 5.
It might be as simple as just like, instead of going through all of the calculations, just kind of having it in your mind, each launch bonus, the level going up, it's going to be worth a lot more. And the difference between a 1x and a 1x and or a 0x and a 10x, it's super speculative, because it's really about the hedron price in the future.
It is. Yep. And the hex price. But look at this. This is kind of interesting. Look at the value of the stake and the theoretical value. Not too far off. It's interesting.
Has Alex shown you what the new front end is going to look like or anything?
No, I have not seen any of that.
Be great if we could get just a screen grab or something, because people want to know what it looks like.
Well, yeah, we just kind of want to know what tools we're going to have to work with. I think it's the biggest thing. And the second biggest thing for me is I want to be able to utilize whatever tools that are put out there, if any, right? No expectations. But if there's tools out there that we can look at, I would like to practice in the HSI auctions on testnet, because right now we're about 8 days out. If I remember correctly, it's about 8 days out from 90 days from Icosa launch on testnet, which would mean all those HSIs sold for Icosa on testnet would be coming due into the auction, which would be a fun way for people who want to practice, you know, bidding on HSIs in the auction. That'd be a great way for them to do it without any consequences, because it's just testnet, right?
That would be awesome. Yeah. So are there any for liquidation on testnet at the moment that we could do?
We can't. There's two, but they look like they were artificially put there somehow, or
they might have been for the poly guys to test their stuff.
maybe it could be. It could be, but not all the stakes that should be showing up there are not showing up right now, which means, I mean, that DApp, the Hedron.Pro DApp is going to get phased out for sure. So there's not going to be any added functionality to that that we'll see anytime soon. I'm sure we're going to see the update happen on the Icosa front end. And once that, I would assume he would update the testnet version first so that we can play with it and look for any bugs or whatever. And then he could roll it out on the main chain.
Have you spoken to Alex recently?
Nope. You know him. He holds things close to his chest. If he's building or doing something, he holds them close to his chest because a couple of reasons. One, I think he just kind of wants to work on stuff without having a bunch of opinions being thrown at him. He wants to stay focused and just get things done. And then, possibly, bring in some insights from the community. But also, you don't want to create that expectation factor, right? Like, if he throws out like, "Hey, this is what I'm working on," now we're all expecting him to get this done, right? So, he's setting the expectation, and that's one thing that I can understand that he wouldn't want to do. So yeah, I mean, all we could do is just wait and see what happens. I don't think he's going to tell any of us really what he's working on until it's about ready.
Yeah, that's how he normally does it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we could do another, we could do another one if we have a test net up at some point. We could just do a little tutorial on how to actually make a bid. It's pretty simple, hey?
That'd be awesome.
Press actions and make bid or something like that, hey?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be. I'm just super stoked, and if he starts putting on the main network and just completely bypass the test network, I can convince him to launch it on the test network so we can all practice with it. But yeah, it's gonna be amazing. And the only thing is that anybody who has come in late that doesn't have any test coins, I've got plenty on there, and I'd be totally down to ship some out to some people so that they can practice with it. But I'm super stoked about that.
Yep. So how much should we try to value that 10 million hex one? That's like the biggest one in there.
Yeah. Do you have all the stats on that?
I've got up. I've got HSI watch up with the Icosa contract in it. And so the top one what was I looking at? Is it's 10.52 million hex.
Wait,
There's
okay.
actually
So it's
there's actually 3 of them which are above 10 million. So let's just make it 10 million.
okay.
And the amount of shares are 1.28 Q, whatever that is. Is that like more
That's
than
128,000, right?
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the is Q. That's just add 3 zeros, yeah? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think
right.
so.
Yeah, so let's do 10
So
million with 128,000 shares. Was it 128,000 or 1,280,000? No, it can't be 1 million.
I think it's 100. Yeah, I think it's 128,000 T shares, which would be 128 million B shares.
Okay, that makes sense.
That seems to add up.
Yeah.
So then let's see. How many? Can you see how many days it's been active?
They're Quattro Cincos, and I can see how much hex they've yielded so far. Well, there's quite a bit of difference there, actually.
How much? How much?
Okay, so yeah, they're like 230,000 hex, and one of them is 470,000. I guess that has been in there for longer.
So maybe they created them. Is there an amplifier on it?
No.
Oh, they just created this just to sell the Icosa, because on my calculator now it's showing it once that serves 90 days, it shows 555,000 hex tokens out. Does that sound about right?
I mean, two of them are just over 230,000, and one of them's 470,000, which is the hex yield so far.
Yeah, that one I bet you was done on day one. But it doesn't show you on there how many days ago it was created or any sort of timeline.
No, and I can't get the contract address, the individual contract addresses from here.
Well, I would say if the yield is not more than what the calculator says for the 90-day mark, then I would assume that it was made within 90 days, right? And then if it was over, then we might have to guesstimate it a little bit. But this will give us a good idea, because we still have 3 weeks left until the auction, so for that to accumulate more hex tokens. So let's assume that this is correct, that they made this stake and sold it to the contract on the Icosa launch day. And then also keep in mind the B shares aren't exact. It's not giving us exact B shares. There's like that it's a major rounding that was taken place on 128 million, right? That could have been rounded up. So yeah, let's look at that. So if that guy is worth, at the time the auction starts, $345,000, and the Hedron price is still the same that day as it is today, then you're looking at an evaluation of 83 billion Hedron.
Wow. Basically a shark, eh? Well, not actually, not now. You need 100 billion for a shark now, don't you?
Well, let's see here. And then mintable, so that's going to be, this here is going to be 11,500,000. Oh no, 11 billion. So that's 11.5 billion Hedron that will be able to be minted at the end, or at the 90-day mark. Wow, that's crazy. At the 90-day mark, if you get this HSI, you will be able to mint 11 billion.
Wow.
11.5 billion hedron. That's nutso. So then that jumped up the total valuation of the hedron to 94 billion now.
Mm-hmm.
Would be the fair value that would go at.
And how much would that be if you put it back into the Icosa contract? Maybe just put the Icosa price back to $1.10 or whatever.
Wait, say that again?
I'm just wondering how much the Icosa price, like how much you'd get in Icosa for that one.
Let's see. So I feel like somewhere here I'm missing something. Yeah, I don't think we got the B shares right. I think that Q thing is tripping us up. Because if you look here, the total advanceable, which is your B shares, times the full length of the stake, which is how much you would be able to advance yourself, is 711 billion. So that's not right. We got to figure out those Q shares on that website.
Mm. So
Let me jump over there and see what I can see.
I guess, I mean, it makes sense that 1,000 T would equal 1 Q. So maybe that's 1,280 T shares. So that would be 1,280,000, wouldn't it?
I'm going to do something here real quick. This will help us figure this out. I'm going to see what the current stake would say if I created a new one. So 10 million Quattrocinco. That'd be 1,200 T shares. So we're
so that's 1,280,000 B shares, huh?
Yeah. That's right. Now we're talking. That was our problem.
Okay, so the Icosa value is 345,000, and the actual value is 391,000. That's a nice little range. Also, just remembering that if you're going to mint that much Icosa, like if you decide to turn that into something else, you're going to get major slippage.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's see. That's I need to format this. Number. Okay, yeah, 313,000 Icosa. That's twice the amount of what that shark sold to the market to dump the Icosa price off the ceiling. That's twice the amount. So you'd be hitting at least double the slippage, if not more.
So you'd be getting like 80 cents or something on Icosa if you did it all at once.
Yeah. I think it would dump down to like 30 cents. I think it would dump Icosa to 30 cents if somebody sold that much.
Do we know what the total supply of Icosa is at the moment?
Yeah, it's like 16 million or 17 million.
Right. And is it still 90%, around 90% stake?
Oh, it's let's see. Yeah, it should be about 90%, a little over 90% staked.
I think that's the reason that we see it up at that ceiling price. Basically, it's just showing us the demand of Icosa is maxed out.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right. This has been my thesis forever. Like,
yeah,
when it comes off that ceiling, supply like it gets a supply shock. There's no more new coins coming to the system because nobody's going to take a hit by creating an HSI, selling it on the market to get less Icosa than if they were to just buy the Icosa off the market, right? So it shuts off the supply. So then it remains lower. It remains below the ceiling until there's enough demand to buy it back up, buy the Icosa price off the market and buy it back up to that ceiling price again. So it's like it's a mechanism that's just built into the code. So yeah, absolutely, you nailed it.
I also wonder whether that angle that the hex Icosa price ceiling is going at, I wonder if that is the exact same angle as the share rate in hex.
I mean, yeah. I mean, kind of. I pulled up my trackers again. Oh, none of my information imported in. My little key. That's all right. It still gives you the visual. But yeah, this is still that sell-off, right? The 146,000 Icosa market sold.
Yeah.
But here's the trend line. And look at this. Here recently, right here, we hit. Unfortunately, my key's not showing up for you guys. I got to figure that out before we stream too. But that almost hit a 40% premium. Like
wow.
that's like 38.5%. Like that line right here, this line is 40% premium over a B share. So like this is awesome. This is exactly what I was hoping was gonna happen. I just started charting this on day one. And I was like, this would be cool because you're dealing with the T-share calculation twice, right? The T-share rate is calculated twice in the formula of Icosa. Once in how much barable hedron you can get from an HSI, right? And then two, when you go to actually sell it for Icosa, is divided by the T-share rate again. So if it wasn't divided by the T-share rate again, then it would just simply track the B share. Like it would be like B share equals Icosa price. But since you throw in the T-share price again into the calculation, now as that T-share rate ratchets up, it just creates more and more of a premium that the Icosa ceiling price will have over the B share. So, and this is the rate. This is the rate at which it's moving, and we're not even 90 days in yet. Like we started at about a 25% premium, because here's 30%, here's 20%, here's 10%, here's 0%, right? So we started below that 30% premium, and then we beat the 30% premium, lost it, got it back, and then now we're threatening the 40% premium now. So yeah, it's sick. It gets me excited.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, I've got all the data input over here in the table, just kind of tracking the numbers specifically. And then here's our big dates. So that's what I was hoping. I was just hoping that we'd see a working front end on Icosa by the 14th of this month, because the 14th was when the second payment was due on all these HSIs that were sent to auction.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we would see those with basically like a 30-day timer on it.
Yeah,
and now
right.
we're within that 30-day timer, and we're itching towards this November 13th date. But yeah.
And the other thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though, like, is the SA also making stakes and sending them to the contract?
No.
Okay, but there is. Okay, so it's only like every time I see in the bot that someone's done a borrow, it's basically someone selling into the Icosa contract, their HSI.
Oh yeah, and the bot. So yeah, so the HSI, the tokenized HSI is sent to the Icosa contract, and then the Icosa contract automatically, through its protocol and its coding, automatically borrows upon it, right? So that's why you see the Icosa contract as the one that borrowed the Hedron.
Do we see like a distribution, like how much is going to be on day one, how many are going on day two, how many are going on day three, all the way up to the present?
You know, I got a spreadsheet on that.
Lovely.
Come on, you know who you're talking to. Let me see if I can find it. I only got through August though. I'm October, but August was pretty intense, and it like I got maxed out on my CSV file that I was pulling from. Oh, I was talking to you about this. The CSV file I was pulling from Etherscan. They only let you do 2,500 transactions at a time a day. Well, how many transactions were done on that first day of Icosa launch? Well, we know that there was 2,900, 2,800, 2,900 HSI sold to the contract on that first day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you would think I'd be able to get, because you have a limit of 5,000. But unfortunately, it would pull 2 transactions because there was technically 2 transactions were done. So up to 2,900 transactions. But all the other days were good. Like I got the total number of HSIs every other day. Let me just see if I can find it. August HSI sold to contract. I think that's the one. Oh, lovely. You guys don't want to see that one. There's the better. Here. These are all very data like centric, and it's very confusing. So I'm just going to give you a super basic one just to give you the numbers. There you go. Can you see that one?
Yep, I can. Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay, so yeah, so this is at least 2,500 were sent in the first day. I think it's around 2,900. But then you see August 16th, right?
Yep.
So 441 on the second day. And it kind of jumps around.
Yeah.
So it gives you a good idea of how many were sent in each day through the end of the month. So it's just, we're all going to be a little dumbfounded with the let's call it 3,000 HSIs on day one. And then it's going to be like one of those things where it's like, oh, well, now there's hardly being sent to the auction. It's like, well, dude, I'm like the busiest day for me was like 3 or 4 HSIs on the same day. And like the slowest day is in August was August 31st, and there's 28. There's still 28 gonna pop out 90 days from that. Like it's still gonna be crazy. Now, what I'm really curious to find out, and I want your opinion on, because Alex talked about it a little bit. We asked him. I think you were in the room.
Yeah. The backlog. You mean?
Yes. How long do you think it will take for the first day's round of HSIs to be auctioned off? And you have to include the first 24 hours, right? Because it's going to take 24 hours until the first liquidated HSI can actually close out. The auction can actually close on it. So on November 13th, you'll have 24 hours. So November 14th is when the first one could go. And that's if it doesn't keep getting bidded on, right? The time's not extended. So knowing that you've got till at least November 14th, how much longer past November 14th do you think it'll take to clear out 3,000 HSIs?
When you make the very first bid, does the very first bid have to be the payoff amount, like how much it
Yeah,
costs? So you can't bid more than that.
correct.
Well, I mean, I think they're all going to go. Like 2,500 amongst a community of 20,000 people, not to mention the poly executor. Like, why wouldn't you at least liquidate them all and send them to auction? And, in the hope that in the confusion, a day passes and you manage to snap it up for, a few dollars. I mean, I can't
So
see it happening, but who
here's
knows?
a thought. I just thought of something. Tell me if it's dumb. But if you were to do that, like say you're a big Hedron bag holder and you're like, I've been stacking waiting on this. And I have a lot of hex stakes, so I got a lot of this Hedron for free, but I also bought a bunch. I want to go in with a couple 100 billion Hedron, or maybe just 100 billion Hedron. And you think about that idea and you're like, I could go through and I could just liquidate one by one after another, just liquidate one after the other, and just go down through the list and liquidate all of them. Because and I agree with this tactic because I used this tactic and it worked. I think it did. And because I won the HSI at a discount, so I think it worked. You just cause confusion, right? Within that last 5 minutes, so now you're setting it up to where no matter if people bid on top or not, all those HSIs are going to be at least initially trying to end at the same time. But here's the thing: if you run into a scenario where somebody is not willing to go through and beat every one of your bids, because as your bids get beat, the person who beat your bid pays double the amount in gas, because they have to pay the gas it costs to send, and this is all done in one function, so you don't have to do multiple approvals or anything. This is just what the contract does. It sends the amount of Hedron that the first bidder spent, and it's back to that bidder, right? Because that bidder's Hedron was burnt when it made the bid, when it made the initial liquidation, like that Hedron's gone. So now the second bidder, when he bids, part of his bid goes to that first staker or that first bidder to pay him back, and then everything else is burnt, and now he's in charge of the bidding process, right? Of that HSI. So if you run in, let me just finish this thought before I forget. If you just run in and you go through and you liquidate all those, and say it costs you 60-70% of your bag, your Hedron bag, just to start those liquidations, and then not enough people come in and outbid you, then that means when those tickers come up to expire 24 hours later, you may be sitting on a lot less Hedron that you originally anticipated in order to actually win the auctions in the last 5 minutes. Does that make sense? Like, you haven't been paid back enough yet.
But as soon as somebody makes a bid, you'll get your Hedron back.
Correct. You just don't know when that bidder's going to bid, and that's the key.
I mean, the thing is that it's such a low cost to put these to auction. Like, it's literally like just a few bucks on all of these. Like with that 10 million hex stake, how much is the borrowed Hedron on that?
Let's see. So that's going to be 7 billion.
Okay, that's quite a lot. So, but even so, it's like in terms of the percentage of the actual value, you're looking at like what, 1%?
Well, yeah, the actual value is 94 billion, right? And
Yeah.
this is 7 billion. So you could call it like 10%.
10%, right?
So no, okay, I'm glad. See, I'm glad I got you to bounce this theory off of, because that wouldn't be a bad scenario though. Like if you're going into the last 5 minutes and nobody has outbid you on all those HSIs, then you're standing to make a steal. Like you don't want to be outbid on those. So who
No.
cares about the other HSIs? If you're going to clear out all those HSIs at the minimum bid, then you won. Like you won already. Who cares if a few